Dave, happy 4th of July. Obviously, last night was a big win. The bullpen was really strong. What have you been seeing from them, and what kind of state are they in right now when it comes to usage, and how it'll work out for today after Emmett?
I think we're in good spot. We're going to stay away from Huddy, Evan, and Brazier. Outside of that, we're in a good spot. I think, they've been throwing the baseball really well. I think for us, it's just continuing to, attack the hitters, get the first guy that they face. And we've done a really nice job.
With Gavin Stone, for someone in the usage of him being a bulk inning type guy, do you feel like, just considering how many 5 games left until the All-Star break, do you want to try to use him sooner rather than later just to keep him available for potentially a second outing?
Yeah, I think in a perfect world, we'd love to get him in there at some point soon. I do think that him being here, being around the guys, the Major League pitching coaches, gives him some good experience. It has been a while since he's pitched, but he's been off the mound in the pen, and so that's a good thing. But having his length in whatever game is important.
Dave, you've maneuvered the pitching pieces pretty well to be 10 games above 500, but your starters have thrown the 7th fewest innings in baseball. Is that sustainable, or is that something that has to change after the All-Star break?
I think it has to change. I don't think it's sustainable. It's one of those things, I think that, in totality, you look at that and you hear those numbers, certainly not ideal or sustainable, but, each game you have to make decisions on when to deploy the pen. So I think they understand the challenge and what's expected because, I think in totality, the pen's been used a lot, but I do feel that the guys that we have now, we've done a really nice job of taking care of them, and they're not taxed. But that doesn't change the point that the starters still got to give us some more length.
With Kershaw coming back after the break and you got Julio back, do you feel like the rotation's going to be in a better spot once you guys come out of it?
It should be, yeah. That's the expectation. Julio will have a couple starts under his belt. He'll get the little reprieve for the break. Expecting a Clayton back that first turn, and then have Emmett and Bobby kind of already cutting their teeth, and those two guys, to their credit, have given us a lot of good innings and length, and the other part is just getting Tony back on track. So as far as 1 through 5, I feel good where the staff's going to be.
How much, especially with the rotation in the next month, do you guys kind of need to figure out going into the deadline? Do we have the group of guys that longer term this season we kind of trust to be a competitive rotation down the stretch? Is there a bit of evaluation that has to go into exactly kind of where you guys stand there a month from now?
Absolutely. It's a multi-layered question in the sense that, first off, we're always trying to find pitching and improve. The question of guys that can get us through the regular season, cover innings, perform, and there's also the component of, if we put ourselves in a position to get to the playoffs, to get through it. And so how does that look? So, and you also got to layer in potential injury and all that stuff. So I just trust our guys. They've shown it year in and year out to protect against depth, unforeseen circumstances, injury, performance, and also having guys that can take us to the postseason. So we're certainly mindful of that.
I saw something familiar out there earlier today, number 30 in center field. You were working with James Outman. How much room for improvement is there with him?
I think there's a lot of room for improvement. James is a great worker. I just wanted him to think about things differently in center field as far as getting different reads, and I wanted to hear his thoughts on how he goes about playing center field. So I've seen enough of a sample, and it was good for me to get James and Clayton to just kind of talk through some things.
How challenging is it for a kid to not only come up, play every day, but also kind of be your guy in center field?
It's challenging. There's a lot to. It's a big undertaking because center field is a premium defensive position, and the back of the baseball card certainly is the offense, and players pride themselves on that. But when you're playing in the middle of the diamond, we got to be elite, and so it's a challenge to all of us. And I saw that yesterday, and I know Miguel Rojas has been very good, but even yesterday there was a little bit more urgency, which I think will kind of bleed to everybody, and that's the way it needs to be the rest of the way for everyone.
For Outman, is it the reads coming in that are maybe doing the
That's more of what it is, yeah.
When you say urgency, you mean defensively or
Defensively as a whole, all of it.
Why do you think that is?
I was talking to Miguel, and he made some really good points in the sense that, there's a lot of teams now that are playing with reckless abandon, teams that are young players, new young players that are very talented, that play the game differently than I grew up playing the game, and we grew up playing the game. There's no rules that apply. They steal third base with 2 outs. They tag on shallow fly balls. They're running the bases hard. And there's been many times where I think we've been caught being surprised. And so without expecting guys to play that way. And so we've seen it time and time again. And so I thought, if you rewind to this Pittsburgh series, they did that to us in Pittsburgh. And I thought yesterday we were prepared for that, and we played well. So I think that's something that he brought to my attention. I thought it was fantastic.
Miguel, like last night, he talked about the caught stealing as like that play being kind of an important one in the game and something that you felt like you guys had emphasized, especially facing this team again. Like, is that an example of that? When
Absolutely,
you have like a play like that can kind of shift the momentum of a game or just kind of lift things up.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
When did he start talking to you about it?
I talked to him on the day game Sunday in Kansas City.
They kind of played that way, right? Like,
They did play that way. They did play that way.
As the years go by, Dave, and your time playing the game, kind of fades a little bit more. Is it take you by surprise a little bit when you see some, the way?
It does. It does. But it's kind of like everything. You've got to continue to evolve, and there's no one way to play the game. And regardless, the goal is to win. And so how do you kind of adjust to the speed, the way certain teams play with reckless abandon, and we got to be better in that sense, and that's my job.
Dave, Syndergaard threw a bullpen out there today. What's the next step for him?
So Noah threw a good pen today from what I heard. He is going to throw a 3-inning live on Thursday here to some hitters, our hitters.
What's the plan for Clayton between now and that first series after the break?
I think the plan is he'll throw Friday. He'll throw a bullpen Friday or Saturday, and then we'll see how that goes.
Is Syndergaard in the equation to be in your rotation after the All-Star game?
I think for us it's kind of do his sim game and then get on a rehab assignment, and we'll see where we go from there.
What can you tell from the sim game? Right? What are you looking? What are you thinking?
I think just stuff. I think from Noah to the pitching guys to myself, the stuff's got to improve. The teeth to the secondaries, just the overall stuff to get major league hitters out.
There was kind of a tension there, though, between whether he would come back using the same arsenal or whether he would adjust to what his stuff is today. Where does that stand?
You know what, JP, I can't really speak to that. I'll defer to the pitching guys. And like anything, the hitters tell you. So regardless of what stuff that we're going to go with, the hitters will tell you pretty quickly if it plays or not.
Last night, Max said he hasn't been thrilled with his first half, even with the power. Kind of how have you evaluated like what he's provided? He has a lot of home runs, but the batting average like hasn't been there. Just kind of where do you see that he's at right now, and where he can get better going into the second half?
I think for Max, the on base is there, the slug is there, He's been dealing with some injuries, which I think has affected some of the defense. For me, my encouragement, and when I know he's his best, is when he's a better hitter. I think for me, there's times where he chases slug, and I think there's a better hitter in there, and I just don't see a world in he's a 190 hitter. I just can't. For me, and like I always talked about, I've always valued average, and you still got to be able to drive in a run. And so for me, I just think he's a better hitter than he's shown.
Has he looked a little like unsettled in the box this year? He's talked about like going through a lot of different mechanical tweaks and just trying
You
to
can
find
see it.
something.
He's been searching. There was a step back. There wasn't a step back. There is a step back. The hands. So there's some things that he's been kind of going through. I thought last night was really good as far as the consistency of approach, swing, balance through the swing. So hopefully we can keep that going.
Have you seen him guessing too much?
At times. And at times your hitters are going to have to guess because the stuff is so good, but I still believe that there's a really good hitter in there.
David, you mentioned going back to the urgency and teams playing reckless abandon. Do you think that's because of the rules? Okay, to speeding up the game?
I think that kind of gave teams that are equipped to be more dynamic the freedom. So yeah, I think that's fair. I do believe that those same teams could have played the same way years prior.
Is Chris Taylor here?
He is in Arizona. The hope is we get him back after the break, but that we'll see.
Anything new with Shelby?
He's still not in a good spot. He's still a ways away.